Have you noticed how you never miss an email? You meet every deadline, check every spreadsheet, keep every part of your day under control. But at 3 in the morning, when your own mind decides to send you its most urgent message, you roll over and pretend you didn't hear it. What if that strange, fragmented dream wasn't just mental static? What if it was the clearest, most unfiltered report your brain has ever written? A direct transmission from the part of you that sees everything, feels everything, and refuses to lie. And what if those surreal images were nothing more than your mind's desperate attempt to translate raw emotional truth into a language you might finally pay attention to? Tonight, we're going to open the sealed letter you receive every time you close your eyes. No mystical shortcuts, no universal dream dictionaries, just science, presence, and the courage to face what's been whispering to you in the dark. By the end, you won't look at your dreams as riddles to decode. You'll see them for what they truly are: maps. Maps to the parts of you you've ignored, avoided, or forgotten. You've felt it before. The dream makes no sense. The setting bends physics. The sequence defies logic. But the feeling is real. Your chest tightens, your pulse races, your stomach knots. Your body reacts as if it's living something undeniable, even when your mind insists it's nonsense. This is where we begin. A dream is not random. It is a theater where your subconscious stages the scenes your waking mind refuses to watch. It uses the props of your life, the faces you know, the places you've seen, the fears you've buried, to smuggle truths past your defenses. You don't dream in languages you've never learned. You don't see objects you've never encountered. Your dreams are made from the raw material of your own existence. For the hyper-rational, this is both a challenge and an opportunity. When you live by data, when you suppress what can't be measured, your brain doesn't stop feeling. It simply stops letting you feel it consciously. The emotions remain, stored like files in a locked cabinet, waiting for the one time of day when you can't distract yourself with work or logic. That's when they spill into the dream. Science has been clear on this much. All mammals dream. REM sleep restores both mind and body. Disrupting it damages mood, memory, and health. PTSD patients relive their traumas in nightmares, and when healing begins, the nightmares fade. Dreams are not accidents of biology. They are part of the process of survival, adaptation, and integration. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The messages they bring are not always gentle. A dream will show you what you've ignored, the relationship you've romanticized, the decision you've delayed, the danger you've downplayed. It will not send you an email or a spreadsheet. It will give you a scene, a symbol, an emotion, and trust you to make the connection. Today, we'll strip away the superstition without stripping away the gold. We'll explore a grounded, scientific way to interpret your dreams, not to predict the future, but to access the emotional intelligence your waking mind has been pushing aside. By the end, you'll know how to turn your dreams into a tool for navigating real-life decisions, and how to listen to yourself in a way you never have before. For centuries, dreams have been cloaked in mystery. They've been read as divine prophecies, feared as omens, or reduced to neat lists of universal symbols in thick, outdated books. These traditions may carry cultural weight, but they also risk turning something living into something lifeless, a static formula instead of a dynamic process. The truth is that dreams are neither pure magic nor pure nonsense. They are a natural function of the brain, refined over millions of years of evolution, and the fact that we still experience them night after night suggests they serve a purpose too important to be dismissed. Science offers our first clue. Evolution doesn't preserve what has no value. Every mammal studied so far experiences REM sleep, the stage most associated with dreaming. When this stage is disrupted, mental health declines, memory falters, and emotional regulation collapses. REM is not a luxury, it's a necessity, and dreaming is part of its architecture. Strip away the superstition, and you're left with a biological constant, a nightly ritual shared across species, as essential to survival as eating or breathing. The second clue is even more intriguing. Dreams are built entirely from the raw materials of your own life. You never dream in a language you've never heard, nor do you conjure an object your senses have never encountered. The surreal landscapes, impossible scenarios, and strange faces are mosaics, rearrangements of memories, impressions, and sensations you've collected over time. This boundary between the familiar and the unfamiliar is what gives dreams their strange power. They speak to you in a visual and emotional dialect only you can truly understand. And yet the most important clue is also the most uncomfortable. Your brain notices far more than you realize. It records fleeting facial expressions, subtle shifts in tone, inconsistencies between words and actions. Most of these signals never reach your conscious awareness, not because they're unimportant, but because you have psychological filters, defense mechanisms designed to keep them out. These filters protect you from emotional overload, but they also blind you to truths you may need to face. Dreams bypass those defenses. They are the back door into your own mind, a way for suppressed emotions and ignored perceptions to surface without triggering the alarms of your waking logic. The message can't be delivered in plain language. You'd reject it outright, so your mind wraps it in a story. The characters and settings are negotiable, the emotional core is not. What's real in the dream is the feeling, and that feeling is often sharper, more honest than anything you've let yourself feel in daylight. In trauma, this is easy to see. PTSD survivors often relive the event in vivid nightmares, not because they want to, but because the emotional system demands processing. The imagery may be literal, but the function is the same as in every other dream, to integrate an experience too intense to handle in waking life. As treatment progresses and the emotional wound begins to heal, the nightmares fade, proof that the dreaming mind is part of the healing process, not separate from it. Outside of trauma, the signs are subtler, but no less telling. The project you dread but haven't admitted to yourself might appear as a maze with no exit. The relationship you secretly mistrust might show up as a crumbling house or a locked room you can't open. The logic may be hazy, but the emotional signature is precise. Dreams don't care about presenting a clear argument. They care about making you feel what you've been avoiding. The tragedy is that most of us dismiss this entirely. We wake up, feel the echo of a strange scene, and shake it off with the phrase, "just a dream." In doing so, we silence a messenger that works tirelessly to keep us aligned with ourselves. We treat the dream as a meaningless glitch, when in fact, it's one of the few unfiltered conversations we have with our own mind. Ignoring it doesn't make it go away, it just forces it to speak louder in other ways, through anxiety, restlessness, or decisions that felt wrong only in hindsight. By removing the superstition without discarding the essence, we begin to reclaim the dream's real value. We stop looking for someone else's interpretation and start listening for our own. We learn to see dreams not as mystical riddles for a universal codebook, but as personal reports on our current emotional reality. And once you see them that way, the question shifts from, what does this mean in general, to, what is my mind trying to tell me here and now? That's the moment the dream stops being a curiosity and becomes a tool, one you can actually use. Every dream begins with a tension you carry in waking life. Sometimes you're aware of it, but downplay its weight. Other times, you've buried it so deep, you don't even recognize it until it surfaces in the night. This tension is the core of what I call the dual truth dilemma, the uncomfortable reality that you can hold two conflicting truths at once. One part of you clings to stability, control, and the safety of what you already know. Another part whispers that something is off, that a change is needed, that the cost of staying still is mounting. Both feel true. Both have consequences. And in daylight, choosing between them can feel impossible. Defense mechanisms are your mind's way of avoiding that choice. You might intellectualize. turning raw feelings into sterile analysis. You might minimize, convincing yourself that the issue is not that big of a deal. Or you might distract yourself entirely, staying so busy that there's no space for doubt to creep in. These strategies work in the short term. They allow you to function, to keep relationships and responsibilities intact. But they also keep you blind to warning signs, robbing you of the chance to act before a small problem becomes a crisis. Dreams do not play by those rules. They don't need your permission to bring the suppressed into focus. In the logic of a dream, the conflict you've been avoiding is dramatized, exaggerated, stripped of all the polite disguises you've given it. The result is often unsettling. You wake up with an emotional hangover, unable to fully explain why a dream affected you so deeply. That unease is the sign that the dream has bypassed your defenses and touched something you've been unwilling to touch yourself. This is where the value lies. Dreams offer a space where both sides of the dual truth dilemma can be seen at once. You might experience the safety you're desperate to protect and the danger you're reluctant to face, side by side. You might feel the pull of a desire and the shadow of its consequences in the same breath. It's messy, contradictory, and emotionally charged. Exactly the kind of complexity the waking mind tries to simplify away. Consider a relationship you know isn't working, but that you can't bring yourself to end. In waking life, you focus on the good days, the familiar routines, the shared history. In dreams, the cracks appear. Maybe it's an image of a house with a foundation slowly sinking into the ground, or of a pet you love slipping through a door you can't close. The symbols may not make literal sense, but the feeling they evoke, loss, helplessness, inevitability, is the truth you've been dodging. The brilliance of the dreaming mind is that it delivers this truth without demanding an immediate decision. It doesn't hand you an ultimatum, it hands you a mirror. Whether you choose to look closely is up to you, but the reflection is there, and the longer you ignore it, the more insistent it becomes. Night after night, the message will repeat, sometimes in subtle variations, sometimes with escalating intensity, until you either face it or let it play out in your waking life. This is why highly rational, high-functioning individuals, executives, engineers, data-driven thinkers often benefit the most from dream work. They are masters of filtering out noise, of staying focused on measurable objectives. But in doing so, they also filter out emotional data that doesn't fit neatly into their spreadsheets. Dreams reintroduce that data in a way they can't ignore, not as abstract feelings, but as visceral experiences that demand attention. For someone used to thinking in terms of systems and outcomes, a dream can be the first unfiltered insight they've had in months. And yet, the temptation to dismiss it remains strong. You wake, you feel the residue of the dream, you reach for your phone, and the logic of daylight washes over you. It was just a dream. I have real problems to deal with. This dismissal is comfortable, but it is also costly. Each ignored dream is a missed opportunity to adjust your course before the consequences force your hand. The hidden conflict isn't just in the content of the dream, it's in your relationship to the dream itself. You say you want clarity, yet you avoid one of the most direct channels to it. You say you value truth, yet you reject it when it arrives in an unfamiliar form. You say you trust yourself, yet you distrust the parts of you that don't speak in your usual language. Reconciling this gap is not about learning to believe in dreams. It's about deciding to take yourself seriously, even when you don't immediately understand what you're saying. When you do, the dreams stop being strange interruptions and start becoming strategic signals. They won't give you the full solution, but they will point you toward the questions you've been avoiding, and sometimes that's enough to change everything. Because once you name the real question, the answer has a way of finding you, in daylight, where you can finally act on it. The most powerful moment in working with dreams is often when you hear someone else's story and realize, almost uncomfortably, that you've just recognized yourself in it. The characters may be strangers, the setting unfamiliar, the symbols foreign, Yet something about the emotional current running through it feels identical to something in your own life. That's because dreams speak in a language deeper than images, the language of emotional truth. And when you recognize that truth in another person's dream, you can no longer hide from its reflection in your own. Take the story of a woman married to the founder of a major company. For months, their home had been less a sanctuary than a second office. Phone calls at midnight, half-eaten dinners interrupted by urgent emails, conversations consumed by negotiations and investor demands. She told herself it was temporary, that they just needed to push through until the deal closed. But the weight of it had begun to seep into her days, a quiet fatigue she never fully acknowledged. Then came the dream. She was in a small, open cockpit biplane, her husband at the controls, their 2 children behind her. Below, a vast ocean of steel gray water stretched endlessly. Ahead, an aircraft carrier appeared, massive, immovable, both intimidating and reassuring. As they approached to land, her husband abruptly flipped the plane upside down. The wheels faced the clouds, the open cockpit faced the sea. She panicked, not for herself, but for the children, twisting to hold their heads down, bracing them against gravity as the impossible landing played out. Against all logic, the plane touched down safely. When she described the dream, the symbolism unfolded quickly. The inverted landing was the chaos of their current life, high stakes, unpredictable moves, and the constant risk of collapse. The aircraft carrier was the looming acquisition deal, a symbol of immense risk, but also the only stable platform in sight. Her husband was flying the company toward that uncertain landing. Her role was to hold the family steady until they touched down. Recognizing this didn't trap her in a role she resented, it freed her. By naming it, she could choose it consciously. And for the next 6 months, she leaned into that choice, supporting without resentment, creating stability for the children while her husband navigated the turbulence. The atmosphere in their home shifted from silent strain to purposeful endurance, and when the deal finally closed, they landed together. Now, consider a very different case, a man caught in the grip of a long-standing addiction. His dream was darker, more visceral. A massive snake pursued him, eventually swallowing him whole. Inside its body, he felt 2 opposing sensations, a sharp primal terror and a strange, almost comforting warmth. Somehow, he would escape through an opening in its side, running free for a time, only to find himself, again and again, back at the snake's mouth. Sometimes the snake hunted him relentlessly, other times he walked to it willingly. The cycle repeated without end. As we explored the dream, its pattern became painfully clear. The snake was his addiction, feared in moments of clarity, craved in moments of weakness. Being inside it felt perversely safe, a twisted relief from the constant battle of staying clean. Escaping was temporary freedom, but the pullback was inevitable when certain triggers appeared. A lonely Monday afternoon, a text to an ex who also used, a familiar street on the way home. The dream had charted his relapse cycle with more precision than any therapy worksheet or tracking app could. Once he recognized the pattern in waking life, he began to intervene earlier, avoiding the snake's mouth before the craving could tighten its grip. What's striking in both of these stories is how the dream did not deliver a tidy solution. It didn't tell the woman how to fix her family life, nor did it tell the man how to quit his addiction forever. What it gave them was location. An emotional map showing exactly where they stood and the forces at play. The woman saw that her role in the family was one she could either reject in frustration or accept with intention. The man saw that his relapses weren't sudden failures of willpower, but predictable steps on a path he could now see clearly. And here's the part that matters for you. You may not be married to a CEO or battling a chemical dependency, but you have your own high-stakes landings, your own predators that are both threat and comfort. You have cycles you've repeated so many times, they feel inevitable, even when you hate the outcome. Listening to someone else's dream with full attention often stirs something you didn't expect, a quiet, almost guilty acknowledgement. I know that feeling. That recognition is not an accident. It is your mind using another person's symbols to speak your own language back to you. This is why dream work is never just about interpreting. It's about reflection. The moment you feel that resonance, you're no longer a passive listener. You're in the story. And the question changes from what did that dream mean for them to what is my life doing right now that makes me feel exactly the same way? That's when the real work begins. In the next part, we'll take this recognition and turn it inward. You'll learn a process for working with your own dreams, not as abstract puzzles, but as living, breathing maps pointing to the decisions, patterns, and truths your waking mind has been too distracted, too afraid, or too busy to see. Because once you can read those maps, you'll never again confuse being lost with not knowing where to go. Before we go deeper into how you can start working with your own dreams, I want to know if you've stayed with me this far. Because if you have, it means you're already doing something most people avoid. You're looking at yourself without turning away. So leave a comment below with the words, "I choose to listen." Write it as a declaration, not to me, but to yourself. Let it be the first step in proving that you're willing to hear what your own mind has been trying to tell you. And while you're here, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Not because of algorithms or numbers, but because there is more ahead. More tools, more stories, more ways to reconnect with the part of you that has never stopped speaking. If you've ever woken from a dream and felt it slipping away before you could grasp it, you already know the first challenge of dream work. The window is small. Dreams fade not because they are unimportant, but because the waking mind is too loud. The noise of schedules, notifications, and obligations drown out the quiet thread of memory. To capture it, you have to be ready. Step 1, prepare the channel. Keep a dream journal within reach of your bed. Ideally, a notebook and pen, because writing by hand tends to anchor memory more firmly than typing. Before you sleep, take 30 seconds to set an intention. If there's something I need to see tonight, I'm open to it. This is not superstition, it's a psychological primer. You are giving your mind permission to bring the message forward. Step 2, capture quickly. Capture feelings. When you wake, whether in the middle of the night or in the morning, write immediately. Don't worry about grammar or order. Your only task is to get it down before it dissolves. And as you record, note the emotions at each point in the dream. Fear, relief, frustration, longing. These are not just decorative. They are the payload. In dreams, the story is sand. The emotion is stone. Step 3, link emotion to reality. Look at the feelings you've written and ask, where do I feel this in my waking life right now? Not in the past, unless a past wound is still active, but in the present moment and the near future. A dream rarely wastes its focus on something that has no bearing on what lies ahead. If the dream carried a sense of being trapped, where in your life do you feel confined now? If it carried a surge of anticipation, what upcoming event or decision might be fueling it? Step 4, translate your symbols personally. Forget universal dream dictionaries. A snake is not the same for everyone. For one person, it's a predator. For another, a pet. For another, a sacred symbol. Ask, what does this object, place, or figure mean to me? Let the associations come freely, without censoring them. Sometimes the first strange answer, the one you almost dismiss, is the one that opens the door. Once you explore the emotions and personal symbols, distill the dream into a simple, living map. Identify the situation in your waking life that the dream is pointing toward. Name the core emotion at its center, and decide on one small, concrete action you can take in the coming days to honor that emotion. This is not about grand gestures or life-altering changes. It's about alignment. If your dream showed you the strain of landing upside down while holding everything together, and that mirrors a tense negotiation with the client who keeps pushing boundaries, then your action might be to set 2 clear terms before the meeting and prepare a single no you can deliver without over-explaining. By doing this, you bridge the gap between insight and movement, turning what once felt like a cryptic night vision into a practical shift in how you navigate the waking world. This is where the dream stops being a curiosity and starts becoming a tool. You're not looking for prophecy, you're looking for alignment between what you feel and what you do. And when you start acting on that alignment, something shifts. Decisions get cleaner, boundaries get sharper, and the constant hum of background anxiety begins to quiet. But here's the key. This method only works if you treat it as a practice, not a one-time exercise. You are training yourself to hear your own mind in a new way, to recognize the threads it's been weaving beneath the surface. At first, the signals might be faint. Over time, they become impossible to ignore. And when that happens, you'll realize the truth. Your dreams were never random. They were rehearsals for the life you're meant to live. Close your eyes for a moment. Let the noise of the day fall away. The deadlines, the notifications, the weight of conversations you haven't had yet. Breathe slowly and notice how much space opens up when you stop filling it with thought. That space is where your dreams live, just beyond the reach of logic, waiting for you to remember that they exist. Think about the last dream that stayed with you after waking. Maybe it was unsettling, maybe it was oddly beautiful, or maybe it was just confusing. But it left a trace, a sensation you couldn't quite name. Did you follow it? Did you ask why it came? Or did you let the rhythm of your routine sweep it away before you could even hold it still? Most of us don't ignore our dreams because we don't care. We ignore them because they ask for more honesty than we are ready to give. A dream can feel like a mirror you didn't ask to look into, one that shows a reflection you've been avoiding. And sometimes facing the truth inside a dream means facing the truth outside of it too. The cost of ignoring these truths is rarely obvious in the moment. It builds slowly, like a quiet debt accumulating interest. It shows up in restless nights, in choices that feel off but are easier to justify than to question, in relationships that drift without a clear reason why. Each time you turn away from a dream's message, you pay a little more of that debt without noticing. You can keep paying that debt in installments of avoidance, or you can start paying in attention, which is infinitely cheaper. Attention requires no grand gesture, no overnight transformation. It only asks for presence, the willingness to be with what is shown, even if you don't fully understand it yet. Reconnection begins in small, deliberate acts. It's in the 3 minutes you take each morning to write down 2 emotions from your dream and 1 moment in your day where you feel the same. It's in the question you ask yourself before sleep. What did I refuse to feel today? That invites your mind to show you what you've hidden from yourself. It's in the single boundary you set each week, a choice that honors what your dreams have been trying to protect. That might mean saying no to a demand that stretches you too thin, or saying yes to a moment of rest you've been denying yourself. Every time you follow through, you're telling your mind, I heard you, I'm listening. These acts are small enough to fit into any life, but together, they begin to close the gap between your waking and dreaming selves. You stop treating your dreams as strange interruptions and start treating them as part of an ongoing conversation, one where both sides have something essential to say. And something shifts when that conversation becomes regular. You start to notice the quiet echoes between night and day, the way a decision feels the same as a moment from your dream, the way a dream reflects something that happened yesterday with uncanny clarity. The connection deepens, not because you force it, but because you keep showing up to listen. In time, you realize you are no longer visiting your dreams like a tourist. You are living with them, letting them guide you in ways both subtle and profound. And in that slow reunion, you rediscover a truth that's easy to forget. You have never been fully disconnected from yourself. You've just been speaking in 2 different languages. And now, finally, you are learning to translate. There is a desert inside every rush, a wide, quiet space where the things you've postponed are buried under layers of dust. At first, you hardly notice them. You tell yourself there's no harm in waiting, no urgency in listening. But time is patient, and what you avoid does not disappear. It waits beneath the surface, becoming part of the ground you walk on. And in that desert, hidden from sight, there are stars. You cannot see them when you move fast with the lantern of logic blazing in your hands. But when you stop, when you let the darkness gather, the sky reveals itself. Dreams are those buried stars. Each night they rise, trying to pierce the veil you've drawn between what you know and what you're willing to admit. They are not loud. They do not shout over the noise of your waking hours. Instead, they appear quietly, knowing that truth does not need to scream to be real. The tragedy is not that they fade at dawn, but that you often turn away even while they're shining. Your mind is not your enemy. Your body is not an obstacle to your plans. They are on your side, always have been, sending signals in the only ways they know how. A racing pulse when you're about to make the wrong choice, a tightening in your chest when you step into the wrong room. And at night, the most elaborate signal of all, a dream, crafted entirely from the threads of your own life, woven into a story you can feel before you can name it. The work is not to believe every dream, nor to decode them with someone else's dictionary. The work is to show up to them as you would to an honest conversation, to ask, what are you trying to tell me right now? To listen without rushing to translate, to let the feelings settle before you decide what to do with it. In that pause, in that patience, the distance between you and yourself begins to close. When you live this way, dreams stop being strange, isolated events. They become part of your daily navigation, not maps that show the entire journey, but compasses that point you toward what matters most. You still make the decisions, you still walk the path, but now you do it with a partner you had been ignoring for too long. And with every step, the inner and outer world align a little more. So tonight, when the stars rise in your private desert, when your mind writes another message in the language of symbols and feeling, don't let it vanish with the morning light. Stop, listen, write it down. And remember, every dream you honor is a piece of yourself coming home. If you've made it this far, it's because something in you knows that your dreams are not random. They're conversations you've been avoiding, truths waiting for you in the quiet hours. And now you've begun to listen. In our last journey, we spoke about taking off the mask, about stepping into the world without the armor of who you think you're supposed to be. This, here, now, is the next step. Because the more you live as yourself in the daylight, the more your nights will speak with clarity, and what your dreams reveal will no longer feel foreign. They will feel like home. So before you go, leave a comment below saying, I'm listening, not to me, but to yourself, to that deeper voice that doesn't need daylight to be heard. Let it be a promise that you will no longer wake up and dismiss the truths that visit you in the dark. And since you've come this far, watch our previous video where we explored the moment you finally remove the mask and breathe as yourself. It will prepare you for what comes next, as you learn to walk through both your waking life and your dream life with the same unshakable authenticity. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. Not for the algorithm, not for the numbers, but so we can keep walking this path together, step by step, breath by breath. Until next time. Take care of your mind, your soul, and your truth. You're not alone on this path. Not anymore.